Hi, it's so great to have you on this reflective series on the church. How did we get here? Recently, there's been a barrage of attacks on the church and its leadership, and we have seen a decline in church attendance, an increase in non-faith movements like atheism, humanism, and so on and so forth. This is a reflective analysis on how we got here, the way forward. In this series, I'll attempt to look at the events that have brought us to this place of criticism. Especially you see that happening with pastors. Pastors even have to be defensive these days. Okay, so I'm wondering, are these attacks on the church warranted? Are they absolutely unwarranted? If they are warranted, if there are certain things that the church has done that have brought us here, what are these things and what is the way forward? I'm looking at this not as a basher of the church, but as a part of the body, as a member, as a church girl. Okay, so no matter who you are, this will be of some benefit to you. If you're a Christian, this should interest you because faith is a central pillar of life, and consciously or unconsciously, we're always either in the process of belief or unbelief. If you're non-Christian or you used to be a Christian, this will enlighten you. And maybe if you used to be a Christian and you got out of the church because you got offended, you could relate to some of the things that I would share. And I would really love to hear from you. Like, why did you stop attending church? Okay. As a believer too, this could be an answer to a lot of the wonderings and ponderings of your heart. Like if you wondered what is going on, what exactly is happening, as this would also point us to the place of responsibility, because everybody is responsible. We are the church. Okay, so let's jump right in. Recently, I read a post somewhere about a man and his wife who were getting divorced after just 2 months of marriage. I don't even know if it was up to 2 months. Now, the story was that the woman said that her husband liked sex too much and that he demanded for it every day. The man was like, yes, I love sex. We didn't do this when we were courting throughout the dating period, and now we're married. I don't know what's wrong with this woman. I'm not an adulterer, so I'm not about to start going out there to get sex when I have a wife at home. This story interested me because these two people were Christians, were church folks. In fact, they were celibate. They abstained from sex all through their courtship and dating period, and just for sex, these guys were in court trying to giving up on their marriage. As we speak now, they're probably even divorced totally, because I saw this sometime in February. And when I read this story, I was really grieved. I began to ask myself a lot of questions, some of which are, did these guys really pass through a proper marriage counseling course? What was the place of the church in this? I'd like to share here that it is not enough. Okay, and this is part of what I want to share, which is that one of the reasons why the church is where it is today is because we have left the essence to dwell more on the abstract. This means that people do not relate with what they hear sometimes in church. They can't take it and apply it to their everyday life. So I was wondering, what were the conversations around sex first as a single, especially for the lady? Was sex demonized? Was it called unholy? And when they passed through, what exactly do they do in marriage counseling? Because in marriage counseling, there is orientation. They orient you about the need to fulfill the sexual needs of one another. They also teach these people, intending couples are also taught to be patient with each other. Not of course, with the sexual process too, or the growth to sexual compatibility, because so many times people just fantasize, or they think that sexual compatibility is something that just happens suddenly or happens miraculously. Most times it's not like that. You grow into it, you learn what each other wants, learn about each other. Like, it is a learning process. You learn your partner and you learn how to please them. But this can only happen when you sincerely desire to please them. All right. And this is some of the things that are taught in a marriage counseling, because it is not enough to tell young people or singles to abstain from sex as in their singlehood. There should also be a provision to help them navigate or cross over smoothly into an actively sexual life when they get married, so that they do not think that there's something wrong with somebody liking sex, and they do not have issues. I say this because I stumbled into an article while preparing the script for this about a group of guys in church who went into a celibacy support group. They were Christians and they wanted to honor God with their bodies. So these guys formed a support group made up of 10 guys, and they worked themselves. As at the time I read the article, 9 of them were already married. They worked themselves through sexual purity as singles. But the interesting thing is that this article came to light because somebody was researching on celibacy and what happens later on. So when these guys got into marriage, it was discovered that a lot of them did not transition into a marriage of sexual bliss as they had envisioned. So this thing takes work, and the person who reported it was now checking, like, why did it happen like that? And some of the things that they suggested was that when they were single, they spoke about stuff. They spoke about their challenges and they were able to work on it. That's when they were in the process of celibacy. However, as married couples, nobody, was there for them to, through the early stages of marriage, to still tell them about communication and so many other ingredients that are required for a good sexual life with your partner. Anyway, this discussion is not really about sex. This is just an example. So the thing is that people in church started feeling that the church is not always there for them. Imagine being in church all your life and then you get to these places where you have challenges, where other people, regular folks who do not go to church. So now it looks like the people in church are the dumb ones who easily navigate through those places, and then you get there, you do not know what to do because none of these conversations were had in church. We were just busy with the abstract and we never really related it to real life. So we find that in church we're afraid of having real conversations, and conversations around sex, sexual issues, mental health, divorce, the place of the woman, late marriage, the place of older singles, the life questions like around unanswered questions, delayed prayers, grief. Why do bad things happen to good people and good things to bad people? And why does God save some and leave some? All those kind of questions. These kind of questions are treated like time bomb topics. And most times people are advised to not question God, or dismissive answers are offered for these questions, if any. Let's look at some of these questions. Around divorce, we have that usually put the responsibility to make a marriage work, which is supposed to be two people's responsibility. It's hard enough for two people to make it work on one person. We tell one person, keep praying, keep doing this. So one person is making all the sacrifice and everything, and then maybe they get exhausted. So you see, we act like there are all the people in mental health, these things do not exist. We don't talk about people who are struggling with addictions. We act like, oh, everybody has it all together in church, so there can't be addicted people here. Everybody is righteous, everybody is doing fine. You can't be depressed, you have faith, and then sometimes in the church, submission is taught as subjugation. All right, so mental health people are told, people who are depressed and have issues that would need therapy sometimes are just told to go and have faith, pray. They are given fasting and prayer topics, and so we find that most times we demonize things that just require a practical approach. So you find that we're casting out a demon out of someone who simply requires an empathetic listening ear or therapy. And at other times we offer rebuke and judgment instead of wise practical counsel. And sometimes instead of admitting that we don't know and pointing to people to God, we offer sanctimonious and ego-filled answers which do not satisfy any of the curiosity of people asking this question. So we have that our young people are leaving because if it doesn't make sense, if they do not get reasonable answers, or you can't even tell them wait on God over these issues, they propound whatever theories they like, and they tell you there's no God and stuff like that. And so of course we have that people get tired of pretending to be okay when they are not blessed, when what they are receiving is not really feeding them to flourish. And so they go out there to look for solutions, and when they get out there, they find all kinds of solutions, most of which are laced with anti-God honey. So we have that we now have believers who are pushing extreme views on the extreme life views. Example, women who have been battered by their husbands in the church, who are told to keep praying for him. When they get out there and people help them, of course people will help them. It's a human thing, and any propaganda that is sold to them, if God forbid it's an extremism like we see today, so many versions of feminism that are extreme and negate everything that every of God's plan for the family, they just buy it because these guys, what they tell you is that this person helped me. What did you guys do for me? So the church must begin to realize that it's its greatest asset. Every solution must be in the church. You see, the feeding of the 5,000, the disciples wanted Jesus to ask the people who had followed him to go and look for food in the evening, but Jesus was like, get them something to eat. So there is food, there should be food, there should be all kinds of food. Somebody shouldn't spend the whole of their lives in church and they do not get practical wisdom. All kinds of conversations are supposed to be had in the church, because if we do not have it from a godly perspective, people are still going to have it. It's just like teaching your children yourself. So we must realize that the church is not just a home of saints, it's the hospital for sinners. So people who come to church do not have it all together. All right. The life is that those who know more should mentor those who know less and not judge them sanctimoniously. In so many ways, the church is here because it has replaced the essence with the abstract. The church talks about the God life and holiness as though it were an abstraction. We've been communicating with people without connecting. So, We must bring back those times when people had sincere and genuine fellowship with one another in the church, where people were free and open to communicate their fears, concerns, and challenges of struggles with one another, and receive support in the church without, feeling judged. That's what we see in the book of Acts when he said the believers are said to have shared everything in common. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this blessed you. See you around in the next episode.